We live in a time where the call for equality and justice is louder and more insistent than ever before. Our workplaces are a microcosm of the world where these principles are upheld and actively propagated. Today, I want to talk to you about a shift in perspective, from being an ally to becoming an accomplice in the workplace. As you listen to this Red Talk, if you feel anything other than joy, excitement, inspiration, or maybe the light bulb just doesn't go off for you, I ask that you sit with it before you respond or comment. Sit with that feeling and interrogate it, because your feeling has very little to do with me or anything that I'm going to say, but it has everything to do with you. Let me start with a story. Earlier this year, I was at the company's leadership summit, and during the keynote speaker's question and answer session, a Black team member, let's call her Beyonce, raised her hand, and I noticed that the speaker repeatedly called on others who raised their hand before Beyonce. Now, as an ally, one could have privately supported Beyonce later, expressing empathy and offering encouragement, but instead, I saw another team member choose to be an accomplice. This team member, who happened to be a white woman, raised her hand to ask a question. Afterwards, she said, "But before you answer my question, would you please answer hers?" Pointing to Beyonce. What that team member did was amplify Beyonce's presence and ensure that she was seen, heard, and valued. The impact of that was immediate. A shift in dynamics, increased respect, a stronger team, and it demonstrated the power of being an accomplice rather than just an ally. In this age, it is not just enough to be an ally. Now you might wonder, why an accomplice? This very term seems to carry a negative connotation associated with crime, and we know we shouldn't be committing a crime. But that's exactly it. We need to think about it emotively. If I call my best friend and say, "Yo, Tisha, I need you to come help me take care of something, like right now," she is jumping in her car en route to me, knowing just from the tone of my voice that there's some risk-taking happening. I need her, and whatever it is needs to get done. If I call her and say, "Hey, I need you to be my ally," she's gonna respond, "Okay, how can I support you?" She doesn't have to take any risk. She doesn't have to get in the fight at all. So let's reclaim and redefine the term accomplice for the cause of social justice. Allies are important. They lend their voices to causes. They show solidarity. They're necessary for change. Allies can sometimes be performative. Yes, performative. Focused on optics rather than tangible impact. An accomplice is someone who actively participates, who is engaged, who takes risk. Accomplices just don't voice their support. They show it through their actions. They don't just sympathize, they empathize. They just don't stand by you, they stand with you. They are not just aware of their privilege, they use it to effect change. Being an accomplice means creating a culture of inclusion, not just through words, but action. It means advocating for policies that support diversity and equality. It means standing up against microaggressions, discrimination, or bias, even when it is uncomfortable. It means using one's positional power to open doors for those who have historically been marginalized. It means challenging the status quo, even if it stirs up waves. Accomplices recognize that true change requires disruption. They actively listen, educate themselves, and challenge their own biases. They use their privilege to amplify marginalized voices and advocate for equity. Accomplices understand that workplace culture is not solely the responsibility of those experiencing marginalization, but a collective effort by everyone. So, how can we transition from being allies to becoming accomplices in the workplace? Here are a few key steps. 1, self-reflection. Acknowledge your own biases and privilege. Reflect how they manifest in your thoughts, actions, and decision-making. I'm sure we've all had a resume come across our desk and it was a name that was difficult to pronounce and we slid it to the side. That's a bias. Yeah. 2, educate yourself. Engage in continuous learning about diverse experiences, histories, and social issues. Seek resources, books, and podcasts that challenge your perspectives. Hey, and for Gen Z, TikTok is a great choice. But remember, it is your responsibility to educate yourself, and it is not the responsibility of the marginalized group to educate you. 3, amplify marginalized voices. Use your platforms to uplift and promote the voices and ideas of marginalized team members. Share credit and recognize their contributions openly. If a team member gives you a great idea and you take it back to the boardroom and the portfolio loves it and the team loves it, give credit where credit is due. Recognize that team member. 4, call out injustice. Take action when you witness discrimination, microaggressions, or exclusionary practices. Speak up, even if it feels uncomfortable. Silence perpetuates the problem. 5, share the burden. Take on the emotion and laborious work of challenging systems of oppression. Support marginalized individuals by sharing the burden of advocacy and actively working towards systemic change. Have that conversation. Get involved. Use the resources. Join our business resource groups. That's what they're there for. Being an ally is important, but being an accomplice takes us a step further. It's about moving from passive support to active engagement. By becoming accomplices, we have the power to create lasting change, foster inclusivity, and dismantle systemic barriers. You may have a seat at a table that I may not be invited to. You may be in rooms that I may not have access to. This isn't just for me or you, or you. It is for all of us. There's an African proverb that says, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. Remember, being an accomplice requires education, self-reflection, action, and accountability. It's not always easy, but it is necessary for building a more equitable and just workplace. The whispers of those who aren't marginalized are louder than the cries of the marginalized. So challenge yourself to go beyond being an ally and embrace the role of becoming an accomplice. It's time.